Check out this old toolbox. You know, this old toolbox is kind of like an old friend. I've had this box for, I know, over 20 years, probably 25 years, and I've made repairs on it. I just keep hanging on to it. You can see this was all split out, so I made a piece to go over that. And then one side of the part that holds the handle in, it split out, so I made one of those and riveted that in, and now it's splitting again over here, so I may have to put a patch on that. But and I changed, this is the original latch, and the other one broke or something, and I had to get this off another toolbox and put that on, and then it got loose, so I had to bend these a little bit to make it fasten tight. So yeah, you can see here where it's all split on that side. Anyway, I'll get to that. I think I can save it, man. So it still works. These are some side knives, we call them, to make the receiving slot. This starts out as about $130 Hinkles, and we score it on the end to get rid of that point, so it's shorter and has no flex in the blade. And we tell the cutlery people we're going to put it in a vise and snap the end off, and that makes them real happy. Actually, they just kind of cringe. And then I make these little aluminum deals with a set screw on each side, because you gotta have some place to put your hand. I'm holding the camera here, I can't show you, but you hold it with this hand, and then with both hands you push it in and make that slot. Before I started making these, we used to just use a stair gauge. You put that on your carpenter square when you're making the same cut every time, and just run it up to that and stop. And it's called a stair gauge. Then we put it on the grinder and kind of grind it down so it's not quite so hard on your hand, but it'll still give you a blister if you cut 5,000 slots with it in a day. These are wedge grafting knives, and they're heavy for a reason. We make these handles and put the blades in them. Take the blade out of these and put them in here, because you have to drive the graft in and make it tight. You want to make sure that you're crossing the cambium way down low in that cut, and I tap that down until I know that I've crossed it in just the right place down there. So that's pounded in there, and it's tight. It's not going anywhere. Next thing, knock the wedge out, and then cut those angles. Back cut. Tap that in. These are some sign knives. We cut the signs with these. These are Hinkles. Had a bunch of these made in Germany, special made. They were supposed to put a long taper on one side and make it flat on the back side. Well, it's tapered the same on the other side, and we had to put them on a belt sander and go ahead and set the tapers up the way we need them, so there was really no sense in paying the Germans big money for them when we can just go ahead and buy a blank, and we have to put them on a belt sander and set them up the way we want them. And there's a reason for this little point right here. Next thing, knock the wedge out. Then we go, after the belt sander, we go through a series of stones, and I don't have the right stone. This is a 2000, 6000, and I need a coarser one. But Victor's got all the good stones. I ordered him a bunch of new ones this year. I think I set him up with about $300 worth of stones. That's usually enough to last most people a couple of lifetimes, but we go through them, we wear them out. But I use the Hinkles a lot because it has the right amount of carbon. It's good high carbon steel. You got to have just the right amount of carbon. It needs to be soft enough that you can work it and sharpen it, but yet hard enough to kind of hold an edge throughout the day. You'll sharpen it a few times during the day, but if you get just the right amount of carbon, they'll hold up pretty good. But then that final edge, the very final edge, is set up on this is a razor hone. For the old barbers used to use a straight razor, and I bought a bunch of these from a barber supply company in Monrovia, Iowa. And it's a synthetic stone, and the lady that had the recipe for that, she had it in her head, and she was about 80 years old, and she passed away and took the recipe with her. and they said we can't build them anymore. It's called a Super Punjab. But fortunately, I had bought a big box of them years ago, so I got enough to last me. Anyway, you want the knife. Let me get you on the stand here. That final edge, when you get through running through your series of stones and get it on the razor hone, and then take it down to a razor strop. I got one of those, and these knives, well, they do shave when you get them sharp, but you have to have those bevels set up. That final edge, we can sharpen it a little more, or strop it a little more on one side and kind of direct that edge one way or the other to give it more bite or less bite, because when you make that cut, you just want it to come out in the center of the stick, and you don't want to have to think about that or guide the knife. You set that bevel up just right on the final edge, and it'll just come through the middle automatically. So that's what we do. And I'll get into all this and explain it all in great detail one of these days when I have a little more time. But I'm on the run today. See ya.